Hello, everyone. Today, I have a story that's, well, both eerie and terrifying to share. It's called Dead Without Knowing. This story changed my life forever, and it might just keep you up at night too. Are you ready? If you are, come sit close, dim the lights a little, and let's dive into this tale together. My name is Pear, I'm 25 years old, and I've never believed in ghosts or spirits, not even a bit. My friends loved telling ghost stories, some about disemboweled spirits, others about possessed souls, but I'd always laugh and say it was just imagination, or maybe the wind. I used to think the world was only what my eyes could see, and science could explain everything. But after what happened to me, everything I believed in crumbled. And fear, it's been etched into my heart ever since. It all began 4 months ago. I had just started a new job at a small company. The salary wasn't great, so I needed a cheap place to live. I found an ad for an old condo in the city. The building looked rundown, cracked walls, wobbly stairs, flickering hallway lights that sometimes went out completely. The elevator was so old I was scared it'd get stuck. But the rent was dirt cheap, suspiciously cheap. I thought, I'll just tough it out for now, save some money, and move later. I had no idea that decision would change my life forever. The first day I moved in, everything seemed fine. The room was small, with an old bed, a slightly rotted wooden table, and a creaky wardrobe. I unpacked, cleaned up, and fell asleep exhausted. But in the middle of the night, I woke up, because of a sound. It was like soft footsteps, tap, 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 pacing back and forth in the room. I lay on the bed, goosebumps all over, heart pounding, thinking, am I imagining this? But the sound was so clear, tap, 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 circling around, getting closer to my bed. I was trembling with fear but forced myself to stay still, too scared to open my eyes, terrified of what I might see. Finally, I mustered the courage to get up and turn on the light. But there was nothing. The room was empty, silent. I checked every corner, under the bed, inside the wardrobe, the windows, everything was locked tight. Nothing was there. I told myself it was probably the pipes or the old building creaking, right? But deep down, I felt uneasy. It was like something was watching me from the darkness. Have you ever felt that? Like a pair of eyes staring at you from somewhere, but when you turn, there's nothing? That feeling, it's scarier than you'd think. The next day, I started noticing strange things. Objects in the room, they moved. Like, a glass of water I left on the table would be on the floor the next day. Or my shoes, which I left by the door, would end up in the bedroom. I started to get scared but kept telling myself I must have forgotten or moved them absent-mindedly. I even started writing down where I placed things and took pictures as proof. But it kept happening. Every day, things would be in places I didn't leave them. Once, I found a necklace I'd left on the dresser inside a drawer I hadn't opened in weeks. I began to feel like I wasn't alone in that room. I couldn't sleep anymore. Every night, I'd hear sounds. Sometimes footsteps, sometimes soft knocking, talk, from the walls. I was so scared I started sleeping with the lights on, but even then, the feeling that something was in the room never went away. I started having nightmares, dreams of a woman with long hair, dressed in white, standing in the corner of the room. She didn't say anything, just stared at me with empty eyes. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, and every time, I'd feel like something was standing nearby. But when I looked, there was nothing. One night, I woke up in the middle of the night because of a sound. It wasn't footsteps anymore, it was whispering. Yes, whispering. It came from the corner of the room. I lay there, frozen, too scared to move. The voice, it sounded like a woman, saying something I couldn't make out. Hiss, hiss. I was so terrified I started crying. Why me? I tried to stay still, praying in my head for it to stop. But the whispering got louder, closer, until it felt like it was right by my ear. I felt a cold breath on my neck. I screamed, flipped on the light, but nothing. Again. The room was silent, but my heart was pounding like it would explode. That morning, I decided to talk to a neighbor, Aunt Samjit, who'd lived in the building for years. I told her everything, the footsteps, the moving objects, the whispering. She listened quietly, her face growing pale. Then she told me, the room I was living in, 10 years ago, a woman had killed herself there. Her name was Nid, an office worker with a seemingly normal life and a pretty face. But one night, she hanged herself in that room. No one knew why. There was no suicide note, no explanation. Aunt Samjit said that when they found her body, Nid's eyes were wide open, like she'd seen something horrifying. And stranger still, there were fingerprints around her neck, like someone had choked her. But the police ruled it a suicide. I felt my heart drop, chills running through me. Aunt Samjit went on, saying that after Nid's death, tenants in that room often experienced strange things. Some heard crying, some saw a figure in the mirror, others felt like they were being choked in their sleep. One tenant told her they dreamed of Nid, standing and pointing at the wall while crying. I asked why no one told me. Aunt Samjit gave a dry smile and said the landlord didn't want anyone to know, afraid no one would rent the place. And she herself was scared I wouldn't believe her or would think it was superstition. I went back to my room, looking at every corner, thinking, how could I keep living here? I started packing, but I hesitated. My bank account was nearly empty, I couldn't afford to move. So I decided to stay a bit longer but protect myself. I bought a small amulet from a temple and lit incense every night, praying for Nid's soul to find peace. I even spoke out loud, saying, "If you have something to tell me, let me know. I'll help." But it didn't help. The whispering came back. And this time, I saw it. Yes, I saw a figure, a woman with long hair, in a white dress, pale face, standing in the corner. Her eyes, they were empty, like black voids. I screamed and ran out of the room. I stayed at a friend's place, too scared to go back. But the story doesn't end there. I moved out, rented a new tiny room in the suburbs, thinking it was over. But NID's spirit, it's like she followed me. Some nights, I still hear the whispering, hiss, hiss. Sometimes, I feel like someone's watching me while I sleep. I wake up and see a figure at the foot of my bed, but when I blink, it's gone. I'm terrified that one day I might die without knowing, just like Aunt Samjit said NID did, with no reason. I started digging for answers. I talked to people who'd lived in that building. Some said NID had a boyfriend, Tom, a cheater who betrayed her constantly. Some thought she killed herself over heartbreak. But others, they said it wasn't suicide. Someone saw Tom go into NID's room that night, and no one saw him leave. And stranger still, after NID's death, Tom disappeared. No one knew where he went. I was confused. What really happened to NID? And why was she still lingering? I did something, maybe a little crazy. I went back to that building, to that room. I lit incense, placed flowers, and spoke to NID. I said, "If you're still holding on to something, tell me. I'll help." That night, I dreamt of NID. She was standing in the room, pale, but this time, she smiled, a sad smile, and pointed at the wall. I woke up, drenched in sweat, feeling like she was trying to tell me something. The next day, I went back to the room. I knocked on the wall she pointed at, and it was hollow. I called a worker to break it open, and, you won't believe this, inside the wall was a small box. Inside the box, a letter, written in shaky handwriting. It was from NID. She wrote that Tom had abused her, threatened her, and that night, he was the one who killed her. She didn't kill herself, but no one knew, no one believed. She hid the letter, afraid Tom would destroy it, hoping someone would find it one day. I took the letter to the police. It became a case. They reopened the investigation and eventually found Tom, alive, living in another province under a new name, acting like nothing had happened. With the letter and fingerprints from the scene, he was arrested and charged. I felt like NID must have found some peace because after that, the whispering, the shadows, they stopped. But some nights, I still feel like she's watching me, maybe with gratitude, or maybe something else I don't understand. But it's not over. After Tom's arrest, I heard rumors. People in the building said that room still had strange occurrences. New tenants heard crying, saw figures in the mirror. I started to wonder, was NID still there? Or was it something more? I contacted a medium a friend recommended. She told me that room wasn't just haunted by NID's spirit. It was a place where some kind of energy was trapped. She said NID's death was like opening a door, letting something else in. And that something might still be there. I don't know if it's true, but the medium's words scared me. I started thinking, every time I was in that room, maybe it wasn't just NID. Maybe it was something far worse. I decided to make merit, dedicating it to NID's soul and any others trapped in that building, hoping it would bring peace. But sometimes I still dream of NID. She still smiles sadly and points at the wall, like there's something I haven't uncovered. Everyone, have you ever felt something invisible but tangible? It's terrifying because we don't know what it wants. NID's spirit, maybe she just wanted the truth to be known. Or maybe she doesn't even know she's dead. Or perhaps there's something more hiding in the shadows. This experience changed me. I now believe there are things in this world science can't explain. And sometimes, not knowing is scarier than knowing. What do you think? If you were in my shoes, what would you do? Would you talk to the spirit, or run? Would you dare go back to that room to find the truth, or let it go? I'm not sure, if I faced it again, whether I'd have the courage to do what I did. But one thing's certain, I'll never forget the night I saw NID's shadow, the whisper in my ear, and the feeling that something followed me. Thank you for listening to the end. I hope you never experience anything like this. And if you hear strange noises in your house, don't assume it's just the wind. Because sometimes, it might be something more. Sweet dreams, or rather, don't dream of NID. And if you wake up in the middle of the night and feel someone watching you, don't forget, don't open your eyes.